correctly?
Yeah, it's a good try.
Well, as we've discussed, I'm part Belgian.
Yes, exactly.
It's in my DNA. Thierry is the newly named executive director of the soon to be launched, delayed a little bit by COVID, mHUB Hardware Accelerator. And for those of you who don't know, mHUB, it's MHUB, is a Chicago-based organization focused on developing an entrepreneurial ecosystem around physical product development and manufacturing. Thierry is going to head innovation and oh, wait a minute. Oh, you headed in innovation and incubation at mLab Ventures, a privately owned automotive company in New York City, and that operates globally. Before that, he did consulting. He managed an information and communications technology consortium and was in executive positions at Alcatel-Lucent Bell Labs. Thierry has an MS in electrical and electronics engineering from, now I know I can't say this, Bruges Universiteit Brussels. Will you say it correctly?
Yeah, just say the University of Brussels. It's
Thank you.
easier.
And an MBA from KU Leuven. Thierry, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, and apologies for having to put you to so much trouble explaining and pronouncing these weird names.
Well, I'm going to get you back. I'm going to put you to some trouble now. mHUB is building an IoT accelerator in Chicago for the Midwest. Tell us, and you were hired recently, you would probably have it up and running if not for COVID, but tell us about what your plans are and kind of what your timeline is now, your modified timeline.
Yeah. So as you rightfully pointed out, mHUB is a innovation ecosystem that is really focused on hardware product development. And their basically 3+ years of existence have been pretty successful because they have a very state-of-the-art prototyping facility that attracted more than 250 hardware startups. And they launched like 1,000 new products. So very successful, but they also saw that when you build a business, there is more than just building that hardware prototype. You need expertise in go-to-market, in business modeling, and so forth. So they said, let's try to build something more structural, and that's actually the accelerator, and that's where I was hired to lead and launch that accelerator. And as you mentioned, COVID derailed a bit of those plans. We are now thinking of launching somewhere end of August, early September. And the focus will be on industrial IoT. So the first cohort is IoT, others will follow later. What we will do is have a program that will be 6 months long on-site in Chicago, and that will focus on what the previous speaker, David, said on what is that use case, that business use case, what is the problem you're trying to solve, one. Then obviously the prototyping of that solution, but also looking at the business modeling. So that's a 6 months endeavor, and then they can stay and hopefully stay for another 18 months at the mHUB. So that's what we are planning to do.
And is it a resident accelerator? Companies will move to Chicago?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we are planning to launch and cast a wide net, Midwest and even further nationwide, to attract startups, hardware startups, to come physically on site for 6 months, likely to be February, March next year when we really start, because you have the whole application period before that. And we believe we are pretty uniquely positioned because we have that huge state-of-the-art prototyping facility. We can offer that hardware startup community where peer learning is a major force. We have corporate partners, industrial partners in the manufacturing hardware sector. So I think the ecosystem which we are building is very attractive for this.
Thierry, I think it would help if you turned your volume up a little bit. And while you do that, I want to say this facility that Thierry is talking about, Motorola built out the whole facility in the city of Chicago and then decided they had no need for it. So you were really lucky there, right?
Yeah, there is always a bit of luck in everything we do, right?
Yeah. So what you were in New York City. What got you so interested in, coming to Chicago to join mHUB and lead this new accelerator?
Yeah, good question. My experience is one of building and creating new businesses. I build a venture organization within corporations, and then I put I kept one foot in the corporation and another foot in the startup world. And then in my previous role, I was actually building startups outside of corporations. So I've done that whole spectrum. But the key thing that always attracted me to each of these, as well as to mHUB, is about creating things that matter. And when I say things that matter, it's not just new products, but it's also things that will change the industry and impact society. And I believe that with manufacturing, hardware product development, there is a sweet spot which is growing for the last couple of years. Think about how supply chains are being disrupted today with COVID, obviously, but already a couple of years ago with a tsunami, an earthquake, and so forth. So there is this drive towards a more resilient supply chain, putting back some manufacturing capability back here in the US. And I believe also what we already heard is technology has improved dramatically to augment not only the workforce, but also to automate part of it. So all of that is creating a sweet spot. And I think we are on the verge of really creating something that really matters.
So to plug into this Industry 4.0, or, there are a lot of names for it, what does the Great Lakes region have to do, to manage it and accelerate the transformation?
Well, I think that, for me, as I've seen so many times in other industries, I've been working in various other industries which have been disrupted as well. But key is to make sure that you build the right ecosystem, right? The right ecosystem with a clear focus. So 2 points. First of all, the ecosystem, I believe you in the region Midwest, you bring together all the various parties. You have that legacy of industrial manufacturing capability. There is quite a bit of venture capital as well as angel investors in that area that are focusing and see opportunity in that area. You have corporations that also act within mHUB as a corporate partner. And then you have the hardware startup community, as I mentioned before. So if you bring all of those together, and I forgot the universities, I mean, the region has quite a few important universities. So if you bring all these actors together and you make sure that they all have a win in there, because we are talking about a quintuple win or whatever the number is, each party can bring something to it in order to make that the holistic approach of ecosystem is really adding value. And if we have that clear focus on manufacturing, hardware product development as one opportunity for the region, I think we can get far.
So you like to talk about the difference between focusing on problems and focusing on solutions. That seems to be a part of this. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, and I joined a bit early and listened to what David was telling, and it's very, very similar actually. It's how often have we not seen great startups or great teams with a great idea come to us in various industries where they say, hey, I have this product, how nice it is. However, when you ask and drill down, it's like, sounds great, but what problem are you solving? They don't really get to that hard, deep need that is really the crux of why you build a product, why you build a service. Too often they come back and tell me, it's like, yeah, but I talked to my buddies and it's a great product. And I said, of course, when you talk to your buddies, to your friends, to your family, they will all support you. That's why they are there, right? But our job, our role is really to go back to the basics, I call it. It's like, what is the problem you're trying to solve? What is that pain point? And that pain point or problem can be either, you know, the drive towards, you know, optimizing your production process or optimizing something in manufacturing, making it more efficient, which will reduce cost and therefore generate more profit for whomever your client or customer is. But it could also be more from a growth perspective, coming up with new products, businesses, and services that will create more revenue. So that's why I'm always saying, go back to the basics. What is that problem? Once you have that, then you can start ideating or confirming, validating the concept you have, or maybe slightly tweaking it. And through that iterative process, you will get to what I call then the product market fit. And that's what is important to do.
So how do the universities plug into all of this? And, you know, broadly in the region, but also in terms of what you're doing at mHub, you know, what are the ways they can get involved?
Yeah, I think they can get involved in various ways. We already heard a couple of ways, but I would say that one, it's important for universities. They have a huge pool of talent, right? And I've been talking also here in some of the parties, universities in Chicago area, but also the same applies to other regions. There are parts of universities that are more technology driven. Think about the engineering faculties and so forth. They're very technology driven and want to solve problems, but always starting from almost the technology. It's like, hey, we have a great technology. What problem could we solve, right? I call it sometimes almost the shiny object syndrome. It's like, hey, we heard about this, so what can we do now, right? So that's one part of the university. Then I see that other parts of the university that really understand that, hey, we need to solve problems, we want to build businesses and so forth. These are typically the innovation and entrepreneurship entities, a different part of the university, which really want to build something. They are thinking of business models, business viability, and so forth. What is not happening enough is and I compare it to also the bigger corporations, these are different silos. Even within universities, you have these silos and we need to bring them together. And oftentimes, and it's the same as in bigger corporations, you need an external party to help them bring together. And I think there is an opportunity for us as mHub, but as others as well, to build that ecosystem where universities are an important part, where we can bring together, you know, the business guys with the technology girls, and as well as with corporate partners, the investors, and so forth, so that we can together really build solutions that solve real problems. So I think from a university point of view, that would be my message is, hey, you guys have the talent, so let's put it to good work.
Well, then I'm going to volunteer you. Anyone who would like to talk to Thierry about this further, I'd be happy to connect you. Okay with you, Thierry?
Yeah, for sure. Drop me an email.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to the Midwest.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Bye-bye.
We're going to move Thierry out of the spotlight and move Dave Vass